Sometimes something has to die first before something else can be born. And I've learned, and I continue to learn, that there's nothing more liberating, nothing more freeing, and nothing more empowering than surrendering to the calls of your own heart. We've come for ourselves. We deserve ourselves. Sanbonani Molweni, hello and welcome to my secret garden. My name is Vuyi, and if it's your first time here, welcome. I celebrate your arrival, and to the wildflowers of the garden, if you are a subscriber who is returning, thank you so much for your energy and for coming back. Yeah. Today I thought I would share a little talk that I did a few years ago. It was part of TEDx Cape Town Woman, and I wanted to share the story of how I came to be where I am and doing the work that I do, and the following TEDx talk explains a little bit about that. Some of the themes in the talk are on mental health, depression, suicide, and struggling in a world that isn't necessarily easy to navigate through. Part of why I wanted to share it also is so that you know that you're not alone, and perhaps maybe some of the things that you struggle with you might resonate with. My talk happened very spontaneously. I was invited to host a week before the actual event, and then 4 days before the event was scheduled to occur, I was then asked to do a talk because one of the speakers had an unfortunate family incident and could no longer participate. It was a little bit overwhelming for me initially because I was still very much in my wounds of inferiority, of self-rejection, but I was definitely at a place where I was calling on a healthier version of myself. So I said yes, and I leaned into the invitation. If I remember correctly, there was also a year where I was leaning into my yeses more, and I had made a commitment to myself that I would say yes to invitations that I received. And so I said yes. Ordinarily, TED speakers get a speaking coach and they get 3 months to prepare for their talks. And here I am with just less than 4 days to prepare. The thing is, though, I had been through quite a life-changing experience, and I did feel somewhere deep inside me that I could help someone and teach through my own experience and what I had been through. So the story was really inside of me, although the barrier was that I wasn't 100% believing in who I was at that moment. But the faith I had in the teachings within my own experience were far bigger than my own insecurities and fears. And yeah, I leaned into it. One of the organizers of the event helped me to prepare. She gave me some of the tips and tricks that the coaches share with speakers so that they can remember their words and remember their speech. And yeah, it actually worked. And a day before the actual event, 3 days later, we all gathered and had a rehearsal, and I surprised myself and everybody else by having quite a powerful session and was then asked to close. There's something so magical about knowing that all we have to do is to become ready for the things that we know we have come from and for the things that we deeply desire for ourselves. And the rest really is for spirit, for the universe, and for the divine forces to take care of. The way that this speech happened for me is indicative of that. And that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to share with you. A lot of us are needing to believe in something right now. We are working on our faith, how to cultivate our faith, how to trust that we will be okay during these times. And of course, many of us are aching for ourselves, are wanting to be more true to our own voice. Sometimes something has to die first before something else can be born. I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to release what needs to be released. We are standing at a threshold where the old is dying, externally and internally. For me, that quote is about allowing the old parts of us to die, the parts of us that are no longer serving us, the parts of us that are a lie and are based on conditioning and the ways in which we've showed up and told the world we are and aren't necessarily that. We are designed to transform and to change. You just have to look at nature to know that that's the core of our experience. And so you don't have to be ashamed of changing your mind, of pivoting, of letting go of certain beliefs and adopting others, or of not knowing at all. There's definitely a feeling of us being in a void. We feel something new coming in, but we also don't know what it is. Mostly we're in the space of discomfort, maybe unknowns, questioning, restlessness, exhaustion from the work that we've done over the years. It has been a spiritual battle. A lot of us know that. And so we're exhausted. And this time, these next couple of months, is about us recuperating, reflecting, and letting go, letting what needs to die, die. I felt compelled to share this talk today. I hope it can be a comfort and support and guide, maybe even. Some of the things I talk about on the conversation have changed. I, as you know, am traditionally healed, I like to say, because I was healed at the grace of the drums, at the grace of traditional indigenous knowledge systems. I am not a practicing traditional healer. One thing a lot of people don't understand is that the call to be a traditional healer isn't one thing. There are various facets to that call. Some people who are called to be traditional healers are called to be healers of music, so healers in sound. I think about Umkhulu Nduduzo Makatini and his medicine of jazz, and that is his calling. People aren't the same, and there is a difference between a witch doctor and a healer. traditional healer. My gifts and some of my offerings have also developed and changed since that conversation. But if anything, I've just deepened into what I had kind of blossomed into at that time. You do not have to be ashamed of where you currently are in your life. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to know and not to have the answers. And it's okay also not to know which direction you are facing. Allow yourself to be where you are. I think that's the first step in us being able to allow our songs to find their legs, or to allow us to be able to hear them. There's no rush. It's a marathon, and you're the only one on the track. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know if you can relate at all on what I've shared today. Enjoy.
My name is Vuyiqubeka, and I'm a multi-dimensional storyteller. I'm a traditional healer. I'm a sangoma, and that means ngiza ngengoma. I come with a song. I'm also an artist and creator. My songs are writing, poetry, stories, photography, mixed media paintings, sound, and ethereal interventions that interact with the knowns and unknowns, with the invisible and with the magical. Our stories reach in for the sacred. They create space, safe spaces for conversation, for experiencing ourselves, and bringing out the parts of ourselves that we put away, that we are ashamed of, that we hide. Our intention with the work is that those that come into contact with it, perhaps a spark, a flame is sparked, and that you may have the courage to take the inward journey into yourself. And once they perhaps discover those songs that you may have lost, and perhaps even have an encounter with your purpose. In 2016, 22 years ago, I was a different person. I was in a completely different space. I was grappling with self-resentment, self-rejection. I was also grappling with past traumas and past pains. I didn't like who I was. I felt confused, I felt overwhelmed, I felt lost, I felt that I had no real sense of value in this world, and I was numb. I was aching for myself. I was aching for my purpose, and I was aching for my song. Two years ago, I was sick. For years, I was battling and struggling with migraine headaches, and as the years gone by, they steadily got worse to a point where, they got debilitating, and I'd be bed-bound for days. And with migraines came depression, came fatigue, and because of all the medication that I was taking to manage the pain, constipation also came around, and that started its own war. I was losing a sense of who I was. I lost my vitality. My energy was gone. But I forced through life, I smiled through it as we do. And at the time, I was working for a dream job, so everything should have been fine. is what I told myself. I was a travel photojournalist for a travel magazine, and I was traveling the continent. I was meeting new faces and new places, and I was also expanding and meeting parts of myself that I'd not known before. There's a saying in isiXhosa that goes, "Ukuhamba kukubona." To travel is to see, it's to learn, it's to understand. And I couldn't reconcile with myself why I was still sick, why I was still depressed and so unhappy. Things were dandy, right? I tried everything. I did Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat. I saw a neurologist. I saw a homeopath. I had CAT scans. I went vegan, I tried juicing, and I was on a treatment of acupuncture. Slowly, I began retreating and turning my back on the world. And it was at that time that I began seeing and hearing things that I couldn't quite understand. In 2016, I tried to commit suicide. I know it's a hard thing to hear, but we must talk about these things. We are at a place as a humanity where this kind of subject matter is important. It's become urgent. Ubizo is a Xhosa and Zulu word that describes the calling. My calling was to be trained as isangoma, a task given to me by my ancestors, my elders, and the entities that pray for us to come into this place. And my elders prayed for me to be here in this realm as this person at this time. The calling can be described as a time, I like to call it a pivotal moment, when your your soul begins to whisper, and it gets loud, and it begins to then shout, shouting at you, calling at you to awaken and to transform into the purpose that you have come for, to remember your song, to accept the path. It is when you are called to take the inward journey into yourself, into those quiet, secret places where we might begin to love ourselves and see ourselves and appreciate ourselves and value ourselves and stand tall in who we are. We all have the calling. I've always known about my intuitive gifts all of my life, but I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know that I had to do anything with them, and I had no clue that not doing anything with them would make me sick. In today's society, African spirituality and traditional medicine has become taboo. It's been stigmatized and demonized, and we've put ourselves away, parts of ourselves, part of the gifts that give us life. It took me as long as it did to finally surrender to my call, because no one around me, myself, my parents, my family, and my community could recognize what was happening to me. I suffered, so they suffered, and no one could help. I spent 2 weeks in a mental health facility where I met beautiful, sensitive, and gifted souls who struggle to fit in the boxes and the structures and the pressures that society imposes on us. It was in hospital that I finally surrendered to what I knew I had to do. I was discharged and I was led to healers and began intensive plant work. That gave me the courage, the clarity, and the confidence to resign from my job, to sell my car, to sell my clothes, to sell my possessions, and to relinquish any ideas and assumptions that I had about who I had been till that point. Because who we are is so defined by what's outside of us, by our family structures, by society, and by what we see in mainstream media. But how do we really know what's inside until we get there? I left for the Eastern Cape to be initiated as a traditional healer. I left to go and twasa. And twasa means to blossom in isiXhosa. Silence and blossoming go hand in hand. I lived with my teacher and lived the ways of my ancestors as part of the medicine. My journey was threefold, and I had multiple teachers. It was a 1.5 years of initiation, and I healed at the grace of plant medicine, at the beat of the drum, and traditional trance dancing. Slowly, my songs began to come back to me. I had a union with my own divinity and witnessed what I was capable of becoming. That quiet place inside. That's where all the songs come from. That's where all the poetry comes from. That's where all the sound comes from. That's where all the painting comes from. That's where the trust of yourself comes from, the imagination and the creativity. Sometimes something has to die first before something else can be born. And I've learned, and I continue to learn, that there's nothing more liberating, nothing more freeing, and nothing more empowering than surrendering to the calls of your own heart. We've come for ourselves. We deserve ourselves. When we don't answer the messages and the intuitions that the universe and all that is, the invisible, gives us, we get sick. That is why I got sick. Disease is dis-ease in the body. Are we meant to feel like we're suffocating? Are we meant to feel lost and confused and a sense of self-loathing? Are we meant to reject ourselves like we do? Are we meant to be in so much despair and so much pain? I don't think so. I believe that we're meant to be ourselves. I believe that we're meant to be free. I believe that we're meant to dance our dance and sing our song. I believe that we're meant to choose ourselves. When you have the courage to surrender to the calls of your own heart, and you have the audacity to dance your dance and listen to the intuitions that the universe gives us periodically, your heart, your soul, and the universe rise up to support and to hold you and to manifest anything that you desire. Surrendering takes you by the hand and leads you to your songs. Every moment is the perfect moment for you to be who you are. Don't die with your song still inside you. Don't die with your song still inside you. My body is the memory that moves inside my flesh. my emotions an antithesis, touching timelessness. The body moves and bends itself, reaching for prophetic homes in service of the healing, the incumbent sacrifice. A flame lynching through distortions, hearts oiled with crude. A serpent reaches out inside the sweetness at my center. It tosses, it moans. I fall into her scales. Don't die with your song still inside you. Kamako. Ashe, namaste, inshallah. Bayadanki.
Those words still ring true. If you feel that you would like to begin to do the work of contacting your inner voice and relearning how to sing your song, and you'd like to undo the patterns of your childhood trauma conditioning that this world imprints on us, do get into contact. I am here to help you find your way back home to yourself. It's been a pleasure, and there's nothing more important than your time, so I appreciate that you spent it with me. Sending you big love.